prevent that from happening.
Well, I mean, they should,
now, obviously, Afghanistan as being conducted right now is a terrible, terrible mistake. The war is being mismanaged by Bush, it's being mismanaged by Obama. But, I mean, you're right, as long as we were able to keep our national defense strong, that would be fine.
I don't think anyone would sign up for
Finishing the job is...
We've never finished a job quick and easy. I understand Marines first in, lost out. Okay, we invaded Iraq, we won. Now what? This is the longest war America's ever been in. World War II, where we actually, the last war we had a reason to be in. How long did that last?
Do we have a reason to be in World War II? At least the Eastern Front, the Western Front?
Well, if one country attacks us and then their ally declares war against us, Japan did. Japan's allied with Germany. 2 days later,
that doesn't mean we had to send troops into
after we declared war with Japan, 2 days later on December 11th, Germany declared war on America.
That doesn't mean that we had to launch the invasion of Normandy.
If one country's at war with us, they're going to attack us. There's stories of U-boats being off of 2 miles off of New York. That's kind of scary.
We can defend our coastline and our borders. That doesn't mean we have to actually launch an invasion of Europe.
We had to take out one of the two problems.
The same problem you're looking at Iraq and Afghanistan.
Not really, because that was actually a threat. There was a threat. They were attacking our allies and they were attacking us.
The main threat that we believe Saddam Hussein posed to the world is that if he were to acquire weapons of mass destruction, which we believed he was just hyping it up so that he could intimidate other countries into believing he was stronger than he actually was, to take those weapons and pass them on to terrorist groups that would later on use them against the United States and blow up one of our major cities.
So if we were so afraid of him, then why do we put him in power?
At the time, he was an opponent of Iran, and the Iranians had seized our embassy and held Americans hostage for 333 days, and we viewed them as being
Would you like
the
a fireman?
America has this horrible habit throughout our history of looking at people as the enemy of our enemy is our friend, and it's not true. The people who are our friends in one world usually tend to
I don't know what this has become, but we were protesting the...
If America didn't fuck with other countries and their thing, we wouldn't even be in this problem, correct?
Probably
Well, we'd still have the problem. It would just be from Iran instead.
We actually wouldn't, right? Because Saddam wouldn't be in charge, so there'd be no worry about...
There would be another dictator in power.
Well, you can say there might have been, or there might not have been. You never know. You can't say
the weapons that we provided to Saddam helped him consolidate his power. They didn't actually help him acquire power to begin with. He did that as part of an internal political coup in Iraq that we had nothing to do with. But we did provide him with the weapons that he later on used against Iran and then turned around and used against his own people and against Kuwait. We thought we could keep Saddam under control by, the alliance that we had with him. As it turned out, we couldn't. Just the same way as we thought when we were fighting the Nazis in Europe, by allying ourselves with the Soviet Union, we would be able to achieve something greater. And guess what? Stalin turned on us, kept half of Europe to himself. And we ended up having a Cold War after that.
Well, really, we weren't allied with the Soviet Union until 1943 when Hitler in his great awesome mind was like, hey, I'm going to go to
literally, he broke the non-aggression treaty. And still, the fact of the matter is, we allied with Stalin against Hitler. But
the way that I argue this, though, is how you say that Stalin kept half of Europe. Well, he was the first one in Berlin, so technically by the...
That wasn't the agreement that was made at Yalta, though.
Right, but since he was the first one in there by the laws of war, he conquers that area, he holds it until the time is
not when he had already agreed that was not what was going to happen. They were going to have self-determination in Eastern Europe, and then he just turned around and said, you know what, psych, we're not going to do it that way. I'm just going to impose communist governments throughout all of Eastern Europe, and screw you, Roosevelt and Churchill.
Then why did we hold on to Germany for 40 years, actually?
Because we didn't want the whole rest of Western Europe to fall to the communists too.
Then why don't we pull out and call...
At this point, absolutely. We should close every single military base we have in Europe. After the Cold War ended, it makes absolutely no sense for us to have any over there. I don't know why we still have them over there. I think it's military contracts, maybe it's war profiteering, maybe it's just the fact that the German and the British and other European governments, they still feel like they get some kind of a prop having U.S. military presence over there. It makes no sense. The NATO alliance is worthless. We can't even count on our allies to support us during wars where we actually need their help. You want to argue
we're not out of war rooms so far that we need help with.
Well, I would say that Afghanistan and Iraq are two wars where we could have had a lot better help.
There's still no reason why we went there. There's absolutely no reason.
There were legitimate reasons to go.
Do you think that the North had any reason to invade the South?
I don't know about
No, actually, there's no reason. There was no reason for the North to invade the
So
South.
people should still be enslaved, according to you.
That's arguable right there because the Civil War was not based on slavery; it was based on states' rights. Okay,
Based on
so
the states' rights to
economics.
okay, but why did the North invade the South? For what reason?
maintain the union.
There were people in Abraham's cabinet that said, "Forget the South; they're gonna die by itself because the Confederacy is never war." So they were actually planning on invading Canada instead. But the thing was, once we attacked Fort Sumter in the South in 1860, and then the Battle of Bull Run in 1861, that's what kept the war going because Bull Run was such a huge battle because it was 12 miles away from D.C. that they had to fight back. The Civil War shouldn't have happened. It's the states' rights to decide if they don't want to be in the Union anymore. It's the states' rights also if they don't want to have slavery or not. Because Abraham Lincoln created that
hilarious.
Absolutely. That's like Obama creating
I have some
law for
problems with the base assumption behind it that communism is bad. So I mean, unfortunately I don't have the time to truly debate it with you. I just had to actually come and see that there was a.
But from who though were they?
This one I
were they
didn't
not
see.
This is a picture of North and South Korea taken from space at night. This big black hole here is North Korea, and this is free market South Korea.
But there's a big problem there, and you can have that one back. I'm not interested in it. The big problem there is North Korea isn't a truly communist country. It's a dictatorship. There's a big difference between the two. What's that? There isn't one in existence.
Because
Russia was as close as they came. I mean, China is much closer to a truly so if you want to use North Korea, you can, but then you're using an extreme to justify beating against the moderate, which doesn't make sense. It's a straw man argument. There are quite a few logical fallacies you've made in the little paper that I saw. I have a question. Do you have contact information that I can get a hold of you or somebody else that I can discuss this later? Because unfortunately, like I say, I don't have time to discuss it right now, but I'd love to get into that one.
I could write it on a flyer.
Sure.
That say the French and the Dutch did during the American Revolution.
Like, I mean, you guys are more than welcome to your opinions.
really, though,
I
during the
support
American Revolution,
the right of
the
you guys to
French
have that,
control
but I would love to discuss this, but I just don't have the time right now.
Can I ask you, are you a member of any specific political party? Or?
Nope. I'm generally independent. I have a problem with logical fallacies in any government or any political organization. It just so happens you guys happen to be here for me to catch you. So
Yeah. Well, today's the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall.
no,
so.
but that's fine. I just wanted, and I'll get a hold of you later. But unfortunately, I got a class to get to. My name's Richard, by the way.
Nice to meet you, Richard.
Nice to meet you.
The Confederacy was winning the war. It wasn't until 64 and 65 that the Union finally
They were
put
winning
last-
the war on their own soil, but once
Did
they
you get
were
a
actually
chance
going
to
up
sign up
to the
for
Union,
The whole
Union
war was
Liberty at all?
always on there. So there was only
Oh, let me
three
get you your
battles that
sign-up
took
sheet.
place in Union soil. Gettysburg's one of them.
right, and if they had been able to